I'm going to call the public meeting of March 6th in regards to notice of public meeting concerning the proposed zoning bylaw amendment at 990 to 1000 Division Street, Cobourg, Ontario, Sobeys. Are there any declarations of interest from members of council? Councillor Darling?
Yes, as noted in the past, Councillor Burkett, my son-in-law and daughter own the franchise, so at this time, again, I will have to declare a conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none, we can proceed. At this time, notification procedure from the municipal deputy clerk.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Notice was published in the local newspaper, posted on the municipal website, www.cobourg.ca, and circulated to neighboring property owners in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to call Oz Kemmel for a presentation from Sobeys Capital Incorporated to explain the proposal.
Just making sure this is on. Everyone can hear me? Okay. Thank you for having me. Members of council, my name is Oz Kamal. I'm from MHBC Planning, and we're the planners on this file. We're representing Sobeys Capital Incorporated for their site at 990 to 1000 Division Street. The subject lands are identified in red. They are located at the southeast corner of Division and Patterson Street intersection. Surrounding land uses include a mix of residential to the east on the northern half of the property, as well as commercial on the southern half on the east side. It's the Castle Home Improvement Store, and then north of that are some residential dwellings. We also have commercial lands to the north, including the Northumberland Hills Brewery. To the west, we have a mix of some residential on the northern half, and then towards the southern half, we have the Toyota dealership. And to the south, we have, on the same side, on the east side of Division, we have the Tim Hortons and the Dairy Queen, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with. This is a more zoomed up view of the property, so you can see it. Again, the subject lands located are highlighted in red on the aerial. On the north half of the property is the smaller restaurant that was formerly Panda and I believe Sizzle, which recently closed. On the southern end of the property is the existing Foodland store. And currently, in terms of site access, as everyone knows, the site currently has 3 accesses on Patterson Street, the southernmost access being an entrance into the site, and then north of that, still in front of the Foodland, is an exit, and then further north of that to the Panda restaurant is an entrance and exit, as well as on Patterson Street, there's an entrance and exit which takes you to the intersection. Existing pedestrian connections right now are along Municipal sidewalk on Division. The purpose of this application is to recognize, it's a zoning bylaw amendment to recognize the Foodland store at this location. Although the Foodland store has been in operation for some time, the existing zoning doesn't specifically allow a supermarket. In terms of the new store, the total floor area of the new Foodland will be 3,024 square meters. That's just over 32,500 square feet. And we're also proposing a second building on the southern portion of the site towards Division Street that'll be built in the future. That's intended to be service commercial type uses. In total, we'll have approximately 208 parking spaces provided, as well as 2 loading spaces. I'm going to go through now some of the policy framework behind the site. Under the current official plan, the 2002 official plan, which is in effect, the site is designated a shopping node. These shopping node areas specifically permit following uses, such as supermarket, department stores, and other commercial uses, offices, institutional, parks, and recreation as well. the new, the newer official plan, the 2009 official plan, is not currently in effect. It's under appeal at the Ontario Municipal Board. The subject lands under that under the new official plan were originally identified as mixed-use corridor area. This designation does not permit supermarkets, retail, or department store. But that being said, Council here has endorsed a site-specific modification to that OP that would allow, that would recognize and permit the existing Foodland store through a special modified shopping node designation. The site is also within a community improvement area. These, and again, it's highlighted in red. These areas are treated as major gateways to the community and are to be predominantly commercial. So again, we're consistent with these policies. The current zoning for the site is district commercial holding. The current zoning, again, it's one of those weird anomalies where while the official plan contemplates a supermarket use, the zoning hasn't caught up to that, and as such, it still doesn't permit the supermarket. So, which is why we've applied for this rezoning to recognize it in conjunction with our application for site plan approval to permit the new Foodland supermarket. As such, the amendment is required to the rezoning again to recognize the existing supermarket. Attached, I know this is a little bit tricky to see. Maybe what I can do here is, over here is where the existing Foodland is. The intent is to build the new Foodland store here, which I think is clearly visible. And then there's the second building here that would be built in the future after the Foodland is built. The intent is while this new Foodland is being constructed, the existing one would continue to be in operation, so at no point would the site be down a supermarket. Again, in terms of total floor area, the Foodland has 3,024 square meters, or about 32,500 square feet. This other smaller building, again intended to be service commercial, would be about 4,000 square feet. And then over here, what you see is down the road future building subject to another application, and that future building would be another full review through staff and committee. Again, the total site has approximately 208 parking spaces, just slightly over the bylaw requirement. The bylaw requires 187. And again, there's 2 loading spaces, one for the Foodland specific, and then there's one proposed here associated with this future building. This is just a color plan. Just it gets rid of all the background noises, I always like to call it, with the site plan applications when you see them in black and white. Again, it's showing you some of the landscape treatment along Division. Also, I know that with the existing Foodland, there's like there's a pedestrian amenity area. We've recognized through discussions with staff that that's an important feature. So we're proposing a new seating area right at the corner so that you're closer to the street. This is a walkway to the street, and then our current accesses are proposed on Patterson and Division. And again, just to reiterate, the requested zoning bylaw amendment is to recognize the Foodland grocery store and accessory components as permitted uses. It's also and specifically with the accessory uses, it's to permit the seasonal garden center that they would be looking to implement here. I'd like to thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
At this point, are there any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you. At this time, a planning report from the Director of Planning and Development dated February 28th, 2017 regarding the zoning amendment application for 990 to 1000 Division Street, Cobourg. Mr. McGlashan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And for Council's benefit, I have provided also a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully, we won't regurgitate much of what Mr. Kamal has presented. He has presented certainly a lot of information that I'll try to skip over if I duplicate. Essentially, the purpose of my report will be to look at the site location and context, which I believe Mr. Kamal has appropriately provided you with that. Also, an overview of the actual proposal briefly, some planning process items, as well as delve into some of the planning review and conclusions from a municipal perspective. Next steps, which we'll look at where we go from here, and also a question and answer at the end as well. So I think we realize where the site is. I'll skip through some of these photos. So as Mr. Kamal has indicated, there's rezoning proposed to permit the new Foodland supermarket at Division and Patterson Street. Mr. Kamal has used a total floor area figures of approximately 3,000 square meters or 32,000 square feet. However, from a planning and zoning perspective, we use gross floor area for calculations, and that works out to 2,299 square meters. I'll get into some definitions in a second. The new building is intended to replace the existing building, which has a gross floor area of 998 square meters. And Mr. Kamal has indicated that the rezoning is required, as the existing DZ zone does not permit the supermarket. Also, as Mr. Kamal has indicated, there's a phased development plan for additional service commercial buildings adjacent to Division Street, as well as a future building proposed at the southeast corner of the site to the rear. For these two buildings in particular, a rezoning is not required for new service commercial land uses under the district commercial zone. And as Mr. Kamal has indicated, I'd like to get away from a lot of the clutter of a lot of site plans that and technical detail. However, this is a very similar plan that illustrates the proposed food land up at the up at the northwest corner of the subject site, abutting Patterson Street. Building B, which is located towards the south end of the site, and in the future, there we go, a building down the road towards the rear of the site. As indicated, the Patterson Street is a signalized intersection at Division Street. The roadway will be improved to urban standards towards the rear of the site to allow for access for vehicles, and as well proposed by the development plans or the concept plans is a full move access towards the south end of the site, south of Building B. Also, pedestrian connections are very important throughout the site, and I'll get into a little more detail, but these dark gray areas represent dedicated pedestrian connections throughout the site. And as indicated previously by Mr. Kamal, the site currently doesn't have any on-site pedestrian connections really to the public realm. This plan does propose an extensive network of pedestrian connections. So what we have, and I'll explain briefly the planning process. We have a zoning bylaw amendment application which considers the land use planning merits of an expanded supermarket. What the zoning bylaw amendment process does not address are technical site planning details, such as the landscaping, grading, architectural building design, site access, traffic, pedestrian connections, accessibility, and so on. These considerations are dealt with through a separate site plan application under Section 41 of the Planning Act. And as part of our review, it's typical with planning applications is we must look at matters of provincial interest, including the Planning Act, the provincial policy statement, and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Now, generally, these documents essentially govern matters of, as I say, a provincial interest, that is, provision of compact built form in service built up areas, facilitating intensification of underutilized areas, and promoting compact development and built form. Also, now that the county official plan has been approved, we do look towards the upper tier municipality for policy guidance, as well as obviously our Coburg official plan of 2002 and the most recent policy intent under 2010's official plan. And in addition, the zoning bylaw is also analyzed as well. So the subject site was originally designated shopping node area back in 1997. As as part of Official Plan Amendment number 46. The owner of the day was contemplating a redevelopment of the site 20 years ago. However, the redevelopment did not occur. And under the shopping node area designation, a retail market impact study is required if the gross floor area expansion is greater than 1,400 square feet beyond current land use permissions. And GFA, or gross floor area, it represents the total floor area of the building minus accessory floor spaces such as mechanical rooms, service facilities, warehouse storage, office, lunchrooms, and office space. This chart represents what the total floor area comparisons are from the existing to the proposed supermarket, as well as the gross floor area changes. So the existing supermarket total floor area is 1,420 square meters, and the existing gross floor area is 998 square meters. Proposed, as Mr. Kamal has indicated, 3,000 square meters of total floor area, that is all the floor area in the building, whereas the gross floor area is just under 2,300 square meters. So the important figure to address through the planning standpoint is the gross floor area net change, which is 1,301 square meters. There are other service commercial uses that are already permitted in the district commercial zone, and of course they are not included in the increase in gross floor area. And therefore, a market study is not required for the proposed food land expansion. The shopping node area designation also looks at requirements for traffic impact study to demonstrate the transportation networks can handle the volumes of traffic, that there's adequate off-street parking, loading, and service facilities, and as well access points are limited and designed to minimize danger to pedestrian and vehicular traffic. Over the course of approximately a year and a half, Sobeys transportation engineers provided 2 traffic reports to the municipality which support the food land redevelopment plans. Throughout the course of municipal staff review, public works and planning staff, as well as the Planning and Sustainability Advisory Committee, have identified concerns with the location, particularly with the southern access driveway to and from the site, and more specifically potential traffic conflicts and hazards that may present, particularly with the 4 lanes of traffic, center turn lane, Tim Hortons, and other land uses in the area. Sobeys has been made aware of these concerns from the municipality and has directed their transportation consultants to look further into this issue during the site plan review process. Compatibility, we've certainly looked at a number of surrounding land uses, and also Sobeys has taken this into consideration as well, and they've incorporated rooftop heating, ventilation, air conditioning, screening mechanisms, an enclosed loading area towards the north east side of the building, complete with roll-up doors, noise fencing, landscaping, and as well low-impact LED lighting to minimize any off-site impacts. Community urban design considerations in the official plan include providing for additional built form and massing adjacent to the street. This goes for both the proposed food land as well as Building B to the south. There's also extensive edge landscaping and decorative features along the street frontage to create a nice, attractive street edge and a strong urban feel. Particularly important is designing the site for universal design, and this features convenient, safe, and accessible pedestrian connections through what we call dedicated pedestrian avenues. A number of site furnishings, such as the seating area, as Mr. Kamal has indicated, as well as bicycle racks. In addition, sustainable design elements are featured as part of this building, including, as I say, LED lighting, motion sensor lighting, white roof, hot water recirculation, modified HVAC systems, as well as low-impact development infiltration chambers for stormwater management. This site plan represents the universal design plan for the site. And as you can see with the orange arrows and system, that represents the on-site pedestrian movement system, as well as along Patterson Street to the north. There will be an municipal sidewalk connection to the existing walkway over to Auto Drive and beyond. As well, as you can see with the purple circles, those are accessibility drop curbs or areas where there's barrier-free design incorporated. And as well, there are large pedestrian crosswalks along the central open front area of the building. As part of the proposed zoning bylaw, we've recommended that the holding symbol remain on the site and not be lifted until all site planning details are satisfactorily addressed and approved by council. And of course, this includes traffic impact, site access, site design, landscaping, financials, performance security, and finally, execution of a development agreement. So the conclusions from our planning analysis are that the proposed amendment with the holding symbol does not conflict with matters of provincial interest, conforms to the official plans of the County of Northumberland and the Town of Cobourg, would provide for intensification of an existing built-up serviced area and is transit supportive, and also would permit a compatible building form in conformance with the town's community urban design objectives. And as part of next steps, I think it's important to point out that Council would be considering a proposed zoning bylaw amendment with a holding symbol for the land use planning approval, and that is for Sobeys' permission to actually build a larger food store. The exact site planning and design details, which include the finer technical matters such as traffic and site access, pedestrian systems, landscaping details, and all financial elements are part of a separate site plan approval application. There would also be ultimately consideration of final site plan approval and a development agreement at a future meeting of council. And finally, subject to that step being accommodated, council would remove the holding symbol and allow construction to occur. And Mr. Chair, that is the end of my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions along with Mr. Kamau.
Thank you, Mr. McGlashan. Are there any questions from council? Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Burkett. Through you to Director McGlashan. So this is a zoning application, but as you've stated, the site plan will come after this gets approval, and I would suspect that's what most people are going to be interested in, residents to the east who have been advised there is a rezoning application. So how will they be notified that when all the elements of the site plan agreement that you have referred to, such as lighting, buffering, stormwater management, when will that be available to them?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you very much. They are two very distinct processes. Zoning, which deals with land use approvals, and technical site planning are separate site plan application matters. So throughout this process, Sobeys has been involved in both aspects of the proposal, both land use and the site plan application. In fact, Sobeys conducted their own community or neighborhood open house a number of months ago and invited residents in the area to attend and voice any issues or concerns. And they have been discussing matters with neighbors to the immediate east. Also, I understand that correspondence has also been distributed to those landowners to the immediate east as well. So certainly throughout the process, in terms of site planning matters, they have very much been made aware through both Sobeys' own efforts and through the municipal notification process. But certainly residents do have the ability to submit formal comments at any time on the site plan, that's for sure.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first of all, I'd like to give my compliments, as always, to the Planning Department for a very thorough report, including MHBC, who's worked with Cobourg in not only in this application, but in past, a very in-depth, easy-to-read report. So my compliments to both. I only have one question. I apologize, Mr. McGlashan. I know you met me earlier today, but I failed to address this one question, so I apologize. On page 40, if you can just provide some clarity to me in the report, and I know this is could be separate, it may be part of the site plan, so if it is, I'll delay the question. But in the corner, we have a portion of EC on page 4. I don't know if you can pull it up or not. But anyway, in page 40, there's a small portion of EC in the corner. And I guess my question is, with the rezoning, does that EC designation become melded into the rezoning, or does it stand on its own merit simply because it is defined as EC lands? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I do have the correct page, I believe it's the zoning map of the MHBC report. The EC area that's represented is actually along the frontage of the Castle Lumber property to the southeast. That designation zone is not intended to change whatsoever, so it is on its own and is not affected by this application.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rowden?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question on the legal non-conforming issue there. That has been a grocery store for quite a few years now. As you said, it was 1997 when we first come forward to expand. What was it zoned then, just like as a dairy? Because I know it was originally built as a dairy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as far as I can remember, yes, it's been actually evolved from a number of different stores, I guess. It started out as Fisher's Dairy, I believe, many years ago, essentially a very large convenience store, dairy store. Transformed, or I guess expanded, slowly evolved into Nectal, and ultimately into the foodland that we see, and has been expanding throughout. However, they certainly, to date, they've been only expanding within the envelope of the existing building, which is certainly permitted. Once they want to expand beyond that, beyond the existing building envelopes, particularly to the extent that they're proposing today, does require or does trigger a rezoning. So essentially the use has predated a lot of our zoning requirements, our district commercial zone, and as Mr. Kamal has indicated, the zoning really quite hasn't caught up to what the official plan designations are on that site, so they're actually now wanting to make them aligned.
Thank you for that. Councillor Sagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. McGlashan, two questions. The plan calls for 208 parking spots. I'm a frequent visitor to the current Foodland, and lots of times it's really bogged down. I'm just wondering, during the construction phase, for both the construction equipment that will be required and for the eventual loss of those parking spaces, how many parking spaces do we have now? Do you know that? And during the construction phase, how many will actually be available to consumers? And the second question was the Patterson Street, Division Street exits. I'm glad to see that, because sometimes Division can be really bogged down getting in and out of there. So, and the Patterson will have both in and out, obviously, right? Yeah, okay.
Yes, I'll answer your second question first. Actually, yes, Patterson Street will be a full move access to the signalized intersection. The street itself will be widened and improved all the way the full extent of Patterson Street, as opposed to just partially what it is today. So yes, traffic will certainly benefit by utilizing that intersection for controlled movement. In terms of the phasing and development plan, I do know that Sobeys through MHBC has prepared very comprehensive phasing and staging plans associated with the proposed development, construction access, I guess cordoning off certain areas for safety and keeping the existing store open. The exact amount of parking that will be, I guess, held back as part of it, I believe everything south of the current exit-only driveway will be maintained. So everything, I guess, south of the Panda, former Panda, will be maintained in that interim period. But there will definitely be some inconvenience. It will be very challenging to use the site, similar to the Midtown Mall and the No Frills redevelopment, which saw about half the site pretty much cordoned off for that phase development. But I can certainly assure you, as part of the site planning details, MHBC has provided a very comprehensive stage-by-stage construction plan, management plan, to make sure that goes off as best it can. I'm not sure if Mr. Kamal might want to elaborate a little bit on that issue, Councillor Seguin.
And just in terms of phasing, what I can tell you is, while the existing food land is in operation, if you look at the plan that's on there, if you visualize basically a horizontal line, you can almost see it there. Then can you just, right there, perfect. That's the area that will be under, so everything north of that line is going to be under construction first. So that includes the 64 spaces to the east side, plus the new food land. Once that's built, then what we'll do is cordon off the southern half and then demolish the existing food land and start right away building the new parking area to minimize disruptions with local customer base.
Councillor Seguin.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chair, from the time the zoning application is approved to the end of construction, do you have any timeline?
Once the zoning bylaw amendment application is approved, we're still going through the site plan stage, and as Mr. McGlashan had indicated, PSAC had identified a couple of areas of concern which we're currently looking at, where we've been looking at actually different iterations of plans recently. We anticipate that we will have something to bring back to Mr. McGlashan, hopefully for approval in the next couple of months for site plan. From there, we're hoping that right now we're targeting a spring 2018 construction start.
Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none, we can continue. At this time, I would ask the municipal deputy clerk to outline submissions received by applicable municipal advisory committees.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attached is a memo from the Secretary, the Cobourg Planning Sustainability Advisory Committee, dated March 1st, 2017, regarding a motion of endorsement regarding the zoning amendment application for 990 1000 Division Street, Cobourg, Sobeys Foodland. The following motion was adopted at the February 28th, 2017 meeting of the Planning and Sustainability Advisory Committee. Moved by D. Morrison, that council be advised that the Planning and Sustainability Advisory Committee, known as PSAC, has duly considered the application by Sobeys Capital Incorporated for approval of an amendment to the zoning bylaw for the 1.62 hectares, 4.02 acres parcel of land known municipally as 990 1000 Division Street, Cobourg, and that PSAC endorses the conclusions of the planning report dated February 24th, 2017. And further, that council be advised that the PSAC has concerns regarding traffic and site access to the development, and that considerations be given to incorporating sustainable technologies wherever possible.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to be taking public submissions. So first off, when the public is addressing, state your name and address for official record of the public meeting. First, we're going to take public submissions in support.
Good evening, Your Worship, councillors. My name is Gail Raymond, and I live at 184 Ontario Street. I've been waiting a long time for Sobeys to come to Cobourg. I'm there with their parent company based in Nova Scotia. They have a particularly good seafood department, so I'm hoping that when the new store opens, there will be a particularly large seafood department. Lots of oysters, please. I have one major concern, which is regarding the in and out access. I am getting up toward the time when I'm going to have to take the driver's test. I haven't quite got there yet. There are a lot of us, and I assume Sobeys have done their demographics and realize that there are a lot of seniors driving around Coburg. It's probably best to keep it as simple for them as possible. I'm worried about the in and out access proposed for Division. Occasionally I've come out there and trying to get across into the lane to take me back downtown with the traffic coming off the 401, and it really hasn't realized it's in town rather than on a highway yet. I think it'd be much better if you had the traffic going in off Division, and you can have it in and out at Patterson if you like. You've got much more space there. But I don't really want to have a senior who doesn't drive too much coming out at me onto Division when I'm trying to go in, because it looks rather narrow. And I either have it just in at Division and out on Patterson, or in on Division and in and out on Patterson. And I think that's about all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail.
Oh, sorry, I do have one question. Mr. Kamal said that the line, it looks like the Patterson exits can be blocked off while they're building. Is this true? It is? It is. I guess I won't be shopping there that year. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other public submissions in support?
Good evening. My name is Felicity Pope. I live at 314 College Street, Coburg. I'm very excited by this proposal and support the zoning bylaw change. I'd just like to say that when I shop at Foodland, I always exit. I work my way through the parking lot and exit onto Patterson Street because there's a traffic light and it's just much easier to get out. So I strongly support a northern egress. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public submissions in support?
Mike McIver, and I live at 991 Auto Drive. And just in support of Sobeys, they've worked very well with us on their details, on their landscaping that we and my neighbors have worked with them for the last year or so. So just in support, they're working with us well.
Thank you for that. Any other public submissions in support? If there's no more public submissions in support, we will move on to public submissions in opposition. Are there any public submissions in opposition? I'm seeing none, so we'll move on to written comments and submissions received by the municipal deputy clerk as printing of the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we received one written report by Mr. Greg Hancock. I'll read it word for word. John Draper's blog has an excellent description of the application to the town to expand Foodland on Division Street. I am in favor of the plan, except for the proposed exit from Foodland onto Division Street near Tim Hortons. My experience with going to Foodland is that even now the only safe way to exit Foodland and to go south is to go to Patterson Street and turn at the traffic lights. It is my suggestion that all traffic that wants to exit from Foodland should be directed to exit via Patterson Street. The plans indicate that this would be possible. I am unable to attend the public meeting, but would like you be aware of my suggestion. Greg Hancock. All right, Mr. Chair, we have one more. This is from resident Miriam Mouton. I will unable to make the evening's public meeting. I am in support. I support the rezoning for an expanded Foodland. I shop there regularly and appreciate the friendly service that the store carries. Carries area producers like Empire Cheese and Kawartha Milk, as well as in seasoned local produce. and a development initiative to include more environmentally sustainable solutions, for example, for stormwater management, are to be supported. Reducing the heat island effect of a large paved area needs more attention in detailed design. I have concerns about the most southerly proposed entrance/exit. It creates a conflict zone for drivers and for pedestrians using the sidewalk. And I encourage access to public transit and facilities for bicyclists.
Thank you. Are there any others, or is that all? Okay. We're going to move on to written comments from commenting agencies. Okay. At this point, would there be are there any responses from the applicant if desired?
Just briefly, we've heard multiple comments about the access to the south. That was also echoed by the PSAC committee. We are looking at that access and looking at potential solutions to help resolve their concerns. That'll be shown when we bring forward the site plan application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comment from members of council? Seeing none. All persons requiring notice of passage of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment are to advise the municipal deputy clerk of their name and address to ensure receipt of notice. I'm going to call for adjournment. Councillor McCarthy.